before we start, I really have to show you this.
I don't want to set the world on fire.
And while it's absolutely hilarious for a Pro-Goddington video to use that song for numerous reasons, the song is also an old school banger that I only know about because of Fallout. And I freaking love Fallout. So it's all off to a bit of a weird start.
When we look out into the modern world, we see a smorgasbord of conflicting moral systems.
Well, yeah, that's because, right, morality probably is subjective. If it wasn't, everyone would know what all the correct morals are and just do that. I mean, that is a massive oversimplification, but essentially, it's exactly what one would expect to see in a world without a fact of morality.
The leaders of nations cannot agree on what is the good, or essentially, what should everyone strive for.
Okay, first off, it's not just the leaders of nations that dictate what morality is or isn't for the people of their country. They can only dictate laws, and depending on the country, even that requires a mandate from the masses, not some
Farcical aquatic ceremony?
Wait, anyway. Second, morality and what people should strive for, not the same thing. I mean, I strive for all the whiskey on the planet, and there ain't nothing moral about what I'm gonna do with it once I have it.
But what is the source of this division?
I don't know about anyone else, but I have a real funny feeling that it's somehow going to be my fault. Don't know what gives me that idea, but yeah. And you know what? There's a good chance it is my fault. I mean, how could it not be mine? I'm the worst. And I don't just say that because everyone tells me it all the time, but also because it's true.
You're simply the
Worst.
Well, put simply, the source is that of atheism or secularism.
Atheism or secularism. Those aren't the same things. You know that, right? I mean, yeah, they are definitely related concepts, but to state one or the other as if they are just synonyms is ridiculous. You can have secularism within very religious societies. You could even have an atheist who thinks it's a good idea to run a society using religious ideas, mostly because they think they're a big smart, but the plebs need someone keeping an eye on them. The idea being something to the effect of, I don't believe in God, but I sure do hope my butler does. It's pretty cringe. The poors can be good without God too, you know. And it kind of presumes rich people are somehow good by default, and that just ain't it, bud.
Atheism is the denial or lack of belief in the existence of God.
I mean, that is true, but it's funny you started with denial, considering lack of belief is the response you are going to get from most atheists who have spent any time considering their positions. But hey, at least you even acknowledge it instead of being like, atheists deny God is real because of how much they hate him. So, you know, it's a start.
Many atheists reject universal or objective morality and adopt a view of morality that is subjective.
That's because, right? Well, how this video started. No, not the fire thing, dumbass. The fact that in the world as presented, it seems like the most logical conclusion. Again, if everybody had the exact same moral viewpoint about everything, bar little insanity, I suppose, then you could probably say morality seems to be objective. But people barely agree on the things that they do think are moral, and wildly differ on most other things. But even if morality was objective, that still wouldn't actually prove a god, only that a specific morality just happens to be a fact about a universes.
Subjective morality can be defined as a system of morality that is based on the subject or the individual and his preferences, feelings, culture, etc.
That's part of it, but it extends well beyond the individual and is most certainly not just based on preferences and feelings. Sure, some people do it like that, but many who have actually considered their positions beyond it and what God say do have multitude reasons for various positions, but in general, it comes down to things that harm people being immoral, and things that help people, they are moral. To put it this way, breaking my arm for no good reason is not just immoral because of my feelings, but also because I would no longer be able to use that arm to slap the stupid out of you.
To give an example, those who hold to subjective morality may value sexual freedom, or they may not value it. It is dependent on the individual's preferences.
God damn, the oversimplification going on here is so broad I half expect you to be a circle with 2 dots for eyes. First, Bit of a false dichotomy. There are many elements of sexuality that can be more or less freely expressed individual to individual. And again, it's not strictly about preferences, but consent and sexual ethics. This is wildly downplaying the reason people hold certain perspectives, to the point that I can only assume you haven't fucking met any grown-ups who have wink wink, nudge nudge, you know what I mean, another person.
David Hume explains it best when he states,
"Get out of my house!" And frankly, it was a bit rude if you ask me. It took me ages to build a time machine to then break down his door and start asking him his opinions on Star Wars movies. We all know it's because he's one of those weird people who think that the prequel trilogy is actually good. Madness.
so that when you pronounce any action or character to be vicious, you mean nothing but that from the constitution of your nature you have a feeling or sentiment of blame from the contemplation of it. Vice and virtue, therefore, may be compared to sounds, colors, heat, and cold, which, according to modern philosophy, are not qualities in subjects, but perceptions in the mind.
Well, I don't know if you're going to go all Hume's guillotine on us, because that will be fun for me, less so for you. But okay, for those who don't speak 18th century philosopher, what he's saying is that good and bad aren't properties of something, but what we project onto them. Much like a blue thing isn't truly blue, but simply your perception of it. How this does anything for you but demonstrate that morality sure does seem pretty subjective, I have no idea.
This is contrasted with objective or universal morality, which can be defined as a system of morality that is applicable to any person, culture, or society.
Okay, good. Finally, something that I can't poke holes in. Well, logically speaking anyway. I could poke holes in it for other reasons, but that would mostly be for doing a sex at it. And you might think that's impossible, it's just a statement. But I can f*** any object or idea if I put my mind to it, which is of course in my testicles, and thus I would have to be f***ing it to get my brain anywhere close. Stands to reason, really.
To give an example, a person who holds to objective morality may uphold murder to always be wrong in every situation.
God damn it, man, you are clearly confusing objective morality with moral absolutism. I would bet cash money that even the most staunch morality is objective type of guy would also have plenty of situations where they would say murder, at least depending on its definition, can be completely justified. And the inverse is also true. You can have subjective moral frameworks that has murder is never ever justified as one of their tenets. Your non-stop false dichotomies are making my fucking head spin.
Generally, those who uphold objective morality believe in God.
I know he wants to slip out of this with the use of generally, but I would argue that's only true because most people believe in a God of some sort already, and not because they have actually considered their position on morality being objective or not. And I'm sure you will also skip the fact that there are actually secular worldviews that hold morality as being, again, a fact about, reality.
And God being that being.
God, eh? Which God? Your God? It's weird that whenever anyone of any stripe makes this argument, it is always the God that they personally already subscribe to, and thus implied that they have already demonstrated that God is also real, because of their previous assumption, and hell, let's say you're right. Now you got a whole other problem, known as the Euthyphro dilemma. I have no idea if I pronounced that right, but it basically states, is a thing moral because God says so, or is a thing moral, therefore God knows that and states that as a fact? I mean, so many theists just love to accuse atheists of claiming infinite regression, but that one is a fucking doozy.
Which gives this system of morality to mankind, or put differently, constructs reality in human nature, such that they ought to act out or achieve certain goods and virtues and avoid those things which lack good or are evil.
Even if a God exists, that doesn't mean that it gives a shit what you do. In fact, much like how a universe without a God that gives objective morals, a universe that has a God-man who just kind of made it, presumably as some kind of fancy snow globe to show off to his friends at parties, and in no way gives a crap about anything other than it looking nice, well, again, it's exactly the kind of universe we would expect to find ourselves in, with the same no one agrees on anything outcome happening all the time.
Of course, then, a lack of belief in God's existence generally leads to a lack of belief in objective or universal morality,
As we have discussed already, that simply isn't a generalization that makes any sense. Because again, plenty of secular philosophies hold that various moral positions are just true things regardless of what anyone else believes, or indeed feels about it. It's like you are trying your best to be as wrong as possible about everything that you say. No wonder you think that atheists cause disagreements. I can only assume you don't even know what they are, and thus would be incapable of agreeing with anyone about anything about them.
But then there becomes an issue with the practicality of this belief. For if we grant that subjective morality is true, and objective morality isn't, the many absurd consequences result from this view.
I seriously doubt it, but I can't wait to find out what absurd consequences you come up with. Hopefully they aren't just not remotely logical follow-ons, or that they are just how the universe actually works, and somehow that's bad and wrong because you decided.
Thus today we shall drive atheism to its logical conclusions regarding morality, purpose, and value.
Will you, or are you going to say something stupid about a subject you clearly don't understand, making a complete fool of yourself and embarrassing, well, everyone but you? Because I think if you had the kind of self-awareness that would require, you wouldn't have made this video in the first place.
As a side note, if you'd like to support me, make sure to check out my new released merchandise, which is based on our Lord Jesus Christ. Thank you.
I'll be sure to let him know. I hear that guy gets real litigious when he's drunk. And you know, he's always smashed out of his bonds. I don't know how it happens, because all he ever drinks is water. Oh.
What then are these absurd consequences that result from atheism's subjective morality? Well, for one, it is impossible to tell another person that they have done something wrong, for they are merely acting out their preferences.
Swinging pissed your pants. Dang it. That's just not how that works. Even a person who understands the world to be one in which morality is subjective, they can base their standards on things that are rooted within the objective. Again, if you hurt people, regardless of whether or not you think that's fine, I can think that both you and your morality are pieces of shit.
And by imposing your own preferences on another person, you attempt to make your preferences of morality the standard that all should follow.
That would only happen if I had the power to make my moral stances laws. I might be handsome, famous, and good at the sex, but for some reason they have yet to give me any legal authority. And B, put simply, my condemnation of any action that I can see doing harm, I'm not just going to go, oh no, it's fine, chop off that guy's arms and legs because you think it's a good idea. You absolute tool.
Thus, the most vilest of immoral actions become licit and acceptable.
You seem to have convinced yourself, or more likely have been convinced by some other moron, that subjective morality, or in fact the concept of moral relativism, that you seem to have it confused with, simply means, do whatever you want. That's just not what either of those things mean. And if you think they do, then you have demonstrated that you have absolutely no fucking idea what you are talking about.
For as was stated, one can't really tell another person that rationally their actions are wrong by appealing to some standard. If the atheist is to be consistent with their position, this necessarily is the result.
Your misunderstanding of atheism, subjective morality, or anything else that you've screwed up doesn't change the fact that no, atheists absolutely have standards that they hold and as best they can will apply to others, either in the form of criticism or what have you. Just because one knows that other people's positions are come to through their own experiences doesn't mean you cannot recognize the flaws in another person's moral framework. And to claim otherwise is a straw man of the highest order, on the level of a YouTube apologist that uses stock footage all the time, acting like other people haven't thought about their positions. The hypocrisy is just unrivaled.
Interestingly, many atheists opt out for a system of utilitarianism, which attempts to have a society constructed on the idea of maximizing pleasure and getting rid of that which is opposed to pleasure.
If it's not a false dichotomy, it's a staggering oversimplification with you, isn't it? While maximizing pleasure could be argued as a utilitarian concept, the main goal of most utilitarians is to maximize well-being and to lower the things that well, lower that. And of course, while there are certainly going to be atheists who are philosophically utilitarian to some degree, your framing makes it sound like the main worldview that most atheists subscribe to, and frankly, I don't actually know any atheists who do, at least not in any kind of pure form, because pure utilitarianism leads to really weird outcomes, like the so-called transplant problem, where it suddenly becomes okay to murder one dude so you can harvest all their organs and give them away to several others. And I don't think any rational person actually thinks that makes any sense whatsoever. I mean, obviously you kill the dude and the several others and put them in a stew. For me, 'cause sick hungry.
Now, there are a couple issues with this system. For one,
is it that you don't know what the f*** you're doing? I bet it is, because you don't know what the f*** you're doing.
which pleasures that ought to be maximized are not necessarily agreed upon by all people. For what one person prefers or finds pleasure in, another may detest, in which case the majority rules on what is pleasurable.
Oh my god, you don't even know what maximal pleasure means in this context, because of course you fucking don't. Pleasure essentially means the opposite of pain and suffering, and while it has meant actual, fun things in the past, even its proponents saw intellectual pursuits as the highest form of pleasure, and I had no idea that whiskey was that smart.
And we find a similar situation in 18th century America.
I'm sure you think you do, but at this point I seriously fucking doubt it. All you have done is prove that you haven't got a clue what any of the words you are using mean, and you have no idea what atheists, or even a lot of theists for that matter, believe. So how you think you can blame atheism for anything is completely beyond me. What you need to do is go out and blame the person who made you so fucking ignorant for you making a spectacle of yourself like this. And thank them for me, because that was hilarious.